things that always bring people back to ancestral causes, the impact is pattern. Someone say pattern. If there's a pattern of life you have been living that has been producing a certain negative result, even if we cast out all the demons, break all the structures, if you continue that pattern, you will repeat that result. Is somebody hearing me? If you're hearing me, say I'm hearing you. Someone say I'm hearing you. When it comes to deliverance, there are about 3 things that are important. 1 is deal with demons. 2, deal with structures. 3, deal with patterns. So you need to monitor your life. What is that thing that your father was doing that brought him this thing? Check if you are doing it. If you are doing it, you will get the same result. What is that thing your mother was doing that brought her where she is? If you are still doing it, you will get there. So you have to disconnect. That is why many times when God delivered the people, he asked them to change the environment. What did he tell Abraham in Genesis chapter 12? Can you put it up? He said, get up, leave your father's land. Is it not? Leave your father's and let's put it Genesis chapter 12 verse 1. Please, very fast. Someone say patterns. Someone say patterns. You must learn to disconnect from patterns. Now the Lord had said to Abraham, get thee out of thy what? Country. And from thy what? Kindred. And from thy what? Father's land. Unto a land that I will what? Show you. 3 things he asked him to leave. What's the first one? Leave what? Your country. Number 2, leave what? Your kindred. Your brothers, your sisters. Number 3, leave your father's what? Your father's house. So depending on where the influence is coming from, if it's an influence from the family, there's something you do in your family. There's a way your family has been living. They are immoral. Leave your father's house. Tell your neighbor, leave your father's house. Many of us need to physically leave the environment of sin. Leave that boyfriend's house. Leave that girlfriend's house. Leave that environment. Change that environment. Leave that place. Or get that thing to leave you. Dash out that TV. If your TV is your problem, dash out that phone. If your phone is your problem, you can buy Nokia 3310 or whatever is the equivalent now. Is somebody hear what I'm saying? Tell your neighbor, disconnect. Disconnect. If you stay in the same environment, it will still produce the same result. Number 2, disconnect from your friends, those family members. That is why most people God calls, he always disconnects them. He did it to Abraham. He did it to Joseph. Joseph would never have become what God wanted him to be if he didn't disconnect. He did it to Moses. Every person God calls, he always disconnects them. Is somebody hearing what I'm saying? If you're hearing, say I'm hearing. He did it to Jesus. Jesus was even at 12 years. The guy disconnected. The family was going home. He stayed back in the temple and said, this is my own father's house. He changed father's houses. So many of us change name. We don't change house. Changing name is not enough. Change house. Is somebody hear what I'm saying? Change your what? Your house. Change your environment. Some of you I'm talking to now need to change your physical house where you are living. That is not right. That is encouraging you to sin. Or that is an environment of oppression. Change that house. I'm talking to somebody now. Pack out. Some people leaving your house will be more deliverance than 10 pastors laying hands on you. I'm speaking to somebody prophetically now. You know this is a prophetic service. So leave your father's house. Number 2, leave your kindred. That environment, those associations, those same partners, that boyfriend, that girlfriend. Leave that person alone. Then he said, leave your country. Leave that environment of sin. Leave it. Leave it. Many times you may have, most people I have watched, most people God calls, he first disconnects them from their family. That's why he allows persecution. Part of that persecution that comes when you give your life to Christ is to disconnect you from that what? That family. Pastor said for 7 years he left his home. He never went home. He was in school. He disconnected for 7 years. It's that 7 years that God used to clean him out. For me, I remember in campus, I had to disconnect from family. From a young age, I disconnected. I never did what others did. When God laid his hands on me, they'll be outside doing whatever. I am inside. When I went to campus, for a long time, I would go to camp. I wouldn't come home. Because I know what home is. I remember the time I was struggling with television. I had to leave. We live in a duplex. I left my room. My room is very close to the parlor. So anything you put on that TV, I'm watching it. Whether I'm there physically or not. And I can watch anything. Everything in television makes sense to me. Even announcements. Everything makes sense. So documentary. I can be on the television. So that time they brought out that movie. What's that movie's name? 24. Series. You know that thing is designed to keep you for 24 hours. Have you watched it before? It will take about 3 days to finish. Have you watched it? Did you watch 24? Did you watch it the way you're meant to watch it? About 3 days you'll be useless. So you can imagine when they do part 1, part 2, part 3. And at the end you are more confused than when you started. You know that movie, let me tell you the summary of that movie. Don't trust anybody. Everybody was a villain, including the president. Confusion, breaking bone. That's what the devil does. It's after watching that thing I said, series again, cancel. So when I was struggling, God told me, leave that your room. I left that room. I came down to the boys' quarter, where there was mosquito and no bed. I was sleeping on the floor for a period, I don't know, maybe like 3 to 6 months. Hello. For about 3 to 6 months. What's happening now? For about 3 to 6 months, I was sleeping on the floor. Why? I needed to disconnect. Is somebody hearing what I'm saying? If you're hearing, say I'm hearing. You need to disconnect from those your friends. You need to disconnect from that environment. Change the environment. That's what God told Abraham. Then he said, go to the land that I will what? Show you. So it's not enough to disconnect. You now need to connect to God. Someone say connect to God. Because if you don't connect to God, you're going to go back. I hear what I'm saying? If you don't connect to God, you're going to go back to Egypt. If you don't follow God, you're going to go back to Egypt. That's what happened to the children of Israel. They came out of Egypt, but in their hearts they went back to what? Egypt. And because of that, they died what? In the promised land. They died in the wilderness. If you are hearing me, say I'm hearing you. That's why restitution is one very important part of deliverance. If you stole something, give it back. If you have something that you're not meant, that is not helping you, throw it away. If you're in a wrong environment, change your environment. You might even have to change your country. Why? If you go and read the book of Joshua, you will understand why God told them this thing. Because Abraham was living in the time of Nimrod. Nimrod was a person that was governing the nation at that time. In fact, Abraham's father Terah was grandfather Terah was a commander in Nimrod's army. These guys were moon worshippers. These guys were idol worshippers. Abraham came from Shinar. That place they built that tower. That's where they came from. All of the Chaldeans. So now he has a new God with a new revelation. You can't serve him there. You know the thing that happened to those 4 Hebrew boys was done to Abraham. He was thrown into fire. But he came out alive. It's after that time he came out alive. God told him, leave your father's house. Leave everything and leave. Just leave. Because if you stay in this environment, the pressure will keep coming and coming. You might end up succumbing. I have something greater for you. Is somebody hearing what I'm saying? So some of you need to leave that relationship. That girl, leave her alone. You say you want to marry her, but she's making you fornicate. Leave her alone. She's going to destroy your life. Leave her alone. And everybody said amen.